Chapter 4. The Doctor with a Gun. In her previous incarnation, she had coincidentally picked up a phoenix-shaped red jade. Although she had no idea whether it was authentic or not, Gu Ning had kept it because of her fondness for it. Unexpectedly, the jade had magical power, which resulted in her rebirth. Moreover, blood of the phoenix had been absorbed into her soul, causing her to inherit the power of the jade, as well as a pair of jade eyes. Everything turned crystal clear in her pair of jade eyes. With that power, Gu Ning also gained the ability of clairvoyance and a photographic memory. Spirit Kai referred to a type of pure energy that existed in the myriad entities between the heavens and earth, akin to the essences of the sun and moon. There was also a telepathic eye space. It was a still storage room. One could put any object before their eyes into this telepathic eye space just by mere thought. Of course, all of those actions, or the use of jade eyes, cost the power. In addition, a person who had the power could live longer, and can use the power to cure injuries and illnesses. The space of telepathic eyes became larger as the power grew, and was able to accommodate more things. Because blood of the phoenix was a jade itself, it needed the power of jade. Jade consisted of nephrite and jadate. Nephrites included traditional gems like crystals, corals, agates, and so forth. Jadates were mainly emeralds. As long as it has the power of jade, it would be of use. And jade was always popular and common, no matter in the ancient time or modern society. So, it wasn't difficult for Gu Ning to find jade. But Gu Ning needed a large quantity of jade. Even she herself couldn't calculate the exact number. Thus, stone gambling was the only way to satisfy Gu Ning's need. She needed to accumulate the power of jade for her jade eyes. Since she had the jade eyes now, it was so easy for her to win the game of stone gambling. Only by stone gambling, she could win more and more jade to absorb pure and stronger power. At the same time, she could win money by stone gambling. And if she wanted to win money, she could use her jade eyes in other ways. For example, playing dice cup. You could never fail by using clairvoyance. But it couldn't last long, because a casino had its own rules. There was a limit of winning money. If one won too much money, his or her name would be on the blacklist, or he or she probably would be skilled. So if there was another way to make money, Gu Ning would not gamble. Stone gambling surely excluded. Antiques were of great use as well, because antiques normally had a long history with the essence from the sun and the moon. If an antique had the essence, it would be an authentic one. The more essence an antique had, the longer time it must have been existed for. Stone gambling could make you a billionaire or a beggar overnight. Antiques had the same effect. If you accidentally got an authentic one, you would be super rich at once. Otherwise, you would lose every cent you had. But for Gu Ning, who had gained magical power, those were merely problems. On thinking of that, Gu Ning was more than excited. The magical power she had was so immensely powerful. If she still couldn't achieve anything with the jade eyes, she would rather die. The scare was also replaced by happiness, for money was easily accessible to Gu Ning now. As for the jade eyes, it was acceptable too. Ning Ning, are you all right? Hearing the worried voice from Gu Man, Gu Ning immediately got her mind back. She looked at Gu Man's face, which was full of concern. Mom, you're awake. Seeing Gu Ning was fine, Gu Man was relieved, but still slightly concerned. I've been awake for a long time, but you seem distracted. I've called your name for several times. You wouldn't react. I thought your brain was damaged again. You've sacred me. After Gu Man's explanation, Gu Ning felt a little ashamed. Well, I just too concentrated on my thoughts. Gu Man didn't ask any further. She only wanted to see Gu Ning was fine. I'm glad you're awake. That's all I want. It's almost 6 p.m. What do you want to eat? Let me buy for you, Gu Man asked. I'm not picky. Anything is fine for me, Gu Ning replied. Gu Man opened her mouth for a second, but didn't say a word. She knew Gu Ning was a good child, who would not indulge herself for expensive food. Then, Gu Man decided to make the decision for Gu Ning, and buy her some delicious food. When Gu Man was gone, Gu Ning got off the bed to walk around as exercise. But when she had just walked a few steps away from her patient room, a doctor who was walking fast with a white coat and mask knocked her down. Gu Ning stumbled and almost fell. Luckily, she caught the wall at once, and kept her balance. Gu Ning was displeased at first, but then she thought the doctor probably was in an emergency, and didn't knock her down on purpose. Gu Ning planned to forgive him, but to her surprise, the man who had knocked her down didn't apologize at all, and even glared at her, then rushed away. Gu Ning was struck dumb for a second, not because the man didn't apologize and glared at her, but because she had noticed the strong hatred in his eyes. The hatred was not for her. Gu Ning couldn't help but turn around. Her eyes squinted. The man was weird. All of a sudden, Gu Ning saw a gun hidden in the man's waist through his white coat. Gu Ning was worried. Why would a doctor carry a gun with him? And the man seemed he was not a plainclothes police, but an avenger. Although it had nothing to do with Gu Ning, she couldn't step aside since she had found out the truth. If the man was really for revenge, innocent people could be hurt once he shot. On thinking of that, Gu Ning couldn't allow herself to ignore. She wasn't the God, nor the Virgin Mary, but she wasn't cold-blooded neither, and she was willing to help as long as she could. Therefore, Gu Ning followed up quietly. Gu Ning followed the suspect to an office. When he was about to walk in, a young female doctor, who was in a white coat too, walked out, but was stopped by the suspect. Gu Ning fixed her eyes on the movements of the suspect. The suspect pulled out the gun the minute the female doctor appeared in his sight. The gun aimed at her. Due to the white coat, the gun wasn't obvious. But the female doctor's face was as white as a paper now. She was scared. Then the suspect talked to her for a while, and the female doctor reluctantly followed him to another side. Gu Ning followed up immediately. They went upstairs. There were few people in the corridors, because most of them used elevators, and nobody noticed there was something wrong with them. They went straight to the top of the building. It was an open balcony. There was no one else on the balcony, except the suspect, the female doctor, and Gu Ning, who was hidden in the dark.